What if the CIA's top spy wasn't working for America, but for Israel? This isn't a thriller. It's the real story of James Angleton, the guy who ran a secret network, helped steal nukes, and betrayed his country for decades. How'd he get away with it? Stick around. The truth, recently unredacted in 2025, will blow your mind. But first, let's unravel the web. Picture this. It's post-World War II, and Angleton, the CIA's counterintelligence boss, is supposed to catch spies. Instead, he's building a rogue network of Jewish immigrants and Israeli agents. No permission from Congress. No nod from his CIA bosses. By 1975, senators grill him. He shrugs. No clearances. The guy guarding America's secrets, running an unauthorized spy ring for Israel. Hold up. Did this guy help Israel snag nukes? We'll get there. It's even wilder than you might think. Angleton didn't trust the CIA's system for what he called the Israeli account. So he went rogue, handpicking Jewish Americans, training them himself, shuttling them between Langley and Tel Aviv. He called it a fiduciary relationship, like a banker guarding someone's cash. Personal business, he said. Not America's. His. Only 10 people in this secret club, bouncing between CIA, National Security Council, and Israel. Were they loyal to the US? Nobody checked. Here's where it gets dirty. 1946. Zionist militia Ergun bombs Britain's Jerusalem headquarters and kills 91. Then they try blowing up Britain's Rome embassy. Italian cops nab the terrorists. Angleton. He frees them. Why? To cozy up to Zionists who soon run Israel. America's justice is simply tossed aside. By 51, he cuts a deal. America hands over intel, papers, signals, the works. Israel gives back Soviet gossip, and Congress is clueless. Angleton's answer when asked how CIA bosses knew? They met the Israelis. There were no records, only handshakes. And the Mossad was his main info source. That's right, America's spy catcher leaned on a foreign agency. Israel held his leash. But the real bombshell, actual bombs, nuclear ones. But what was Angleton's role? It's coming. 1965, NUNDC, a Zionist-owned plant, loses hundreds of kilos of weapons-grade uranium, enough for Israel's first nukes. Mossad's Rafi Eitan, posing as a scientist, sneaks in, grabs more. The CIA stays silent. Angleton made sure of it. A 1977 probe says the CIA hid the theft from the FBI and the Energy Department. Why? Angleton valued Israel's nukes over America's no nukes policy. 1975, senators asked, "Did you help Israel steal nuclear secrets?" Angleton dodges, "Do I have to answer?" They go off record. Later, he admits in a secret memo he lied to Congress. Lied about Israeli spies on U.S. soil. Obstructed justice. For Israel. 1969 to 72, Angleton's cozy with Mossad at Israel's D.C. embassy, swapping extremely sensitive intel. Meanwhile, Israel's running a technical intelligence network here, stealing nuclear tech. And Angleton shields them. This isn't an alliance. It's espionage with America's top spy as the inside man. Oh, and Kennedy's assassin. Angleton's team watched Oswald, then yanked him off watch list weeks before the shot. Coincidence? Well, hold that thought. By 74, new CIA boss Colby wants transparency. Angleton freaks, says it'll ruin Israel's immigrant pipeline from the USSR. His priority, not America, Israel's population. Colby fires him after Angleton's caught spying on US and Torah activists, something that's completely encouraged today. But Angleton hints his Israeli matters pissed Colby off too. Was Colby sniffing too close to the nuke heist? Here's the kicker. 1987, 7 months after Angleton dies, Israel's Mossad and Shin Bet bosses, plus ex-spy chiefs, plant a tree for him in Jerusalem. Secret ceremony, hidden from the world. A stone reads, "In memory of a dear friend, James Angleton." Israel mourns their hero. Not a peep from the CIA or Congress. That's the truth of his loyalty. 2025 files spill it all. Angleton built a shadow system, with personal deals, no oversight, and Israel first. He helped Mossad grow, gave them our secrets, and let them steal nukes. For 70 years, the truth hid, redacted, and buried. Why? Power protects power. Think Epstein files. Angleton's personal business wasn't America's, it was Israel's. A spy who picked Israel over America. A system that let him. The files are open, but the game's still on. What secrets are we blind to now?
In September 1966, the Atomic Energy Commission's press office revealed losses over many contracts have totaled approximately 178 kilograms of uranium-235, having a value of about $2 million. It seems curious the company could afford such an expense, given NUMEC's financial data, provided by Roger J. Matson, who led a 1977 investigation of the NUMEC affair for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the Atomic Energy Commission's federal regulator. The $2.2 million in total charges was more than 4 times the Atomic Energy Commission's 1967 budget for research and development on nuclear material safeguards. The $2.2 million exceeded the initial capital used to form NUMEC. The $2.2 million was nearly 10 times the company's net income in its fiscal year ending September 30th, 1965. The $2.2 million was more than 50% of the company's long-term debt of $4.3 million at the end of its fiscal year, 1965. However, $2.2 million was a bargain for securing the material needed for a fledgling nation to build its first atom bombs. Indeed, John Haddon, CIA station chief in Tel Aviv from 1963 to 1967, throughout the NUMEC affair, would testify to Congress that NUMEC had been an Israeli operation from the beginning, but the CIA had not been able to follow the money trail. The agency thought NUMEC had been financed by the owner of Apollo Steel Mill, Israeli War of Independence veteran David Lowenthal. In fact, Mr. Lowenthal himself was also known to law enforcement. David L. Lowenthal, who is reportedly closely associated with high-ranking officials of the Israeli government, fought for Israel as a freedom fighter in 1956, and who currently travels to Israel on the average of approximately once each month. Information known to the Bureau previously, whose Pittsburgh field office noted the same, and additionally, that Lowenthal is closely associated with high-ranking officials of the Israeli government and recently observed shaking hands with Prime Minister Ben-Gurion and Defense Minister Moshe Dayan in Israel. In February 1976, Carl E. Duckett briefed a small group from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Duckett served as CIA Deputy Director for Science and Technology. He was also CIA's leading expert on Israel's nuclear weapons program. One of those commissioners present was Victor Galinsky. Writing years later, what Duckett confirmed, to everyone's astonishment, was that the CIA believed that the nuclear explosives in Israel's first several bombs, about 100 kilograms of bomb-grade uranium in all, came from material that was missing at a U.S. naval nuclear fuel plant operated by the Nuclear Materials and Equipment Corporation in Apollo, Pennsylvania. The consequences are revealed by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Werner Farr, writing in 1999 a history of the Israeli nuclear weapons program for the U.S. Air Force Counterproliferation Papers, a series prepared for policymakers. Farr writes, before the 1967 Six-Day War, they felt their nuclear facility threatened and reportedly assembled several nuclear devices. By the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Israel had a number of sophisticated nuclear bombs, deployed them, and considered using them. Additionally, Israel has most probably conducted several nuclear bomb tests. Israel's nuclear capability was known to CIA. A summary of the February 1976 Duckett briefing from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission notes that Duckett had related that CIA had drafted a national intelligence estimate on Israel's nuclear capability in 1968. He then showed it to CIA Director Richard Helms. Helms told him not to publish it, and he would take it up with President Johnson. Mr. Helms later related that he had spoken to the president, that the president was concerned, and that he had said, "Don't tell anyone else, even Dean Rusk and Robert McNamara." Indeed, President Lyndon Johnson found the information so sensitive that it be kept from Secretary of State Dean Rusk and Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. The scale of Israel's nuclear arsenal by April of 1976 was reported in Time magazine. At a briefing for a group of American space experts in Washington recently, an official of the Central Intelligence Agency estimated that Israel had between 10 and 20 nuclear weapons available for use. The CIA official was none other than Carl Duckett himself, who let the information slip to members of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. In fact, Time has learned, Israel possesses a nuclear arsenal of 13 atomic bombs, assembled, stored, and ready to be dropped on enemy forces from specially equipped Kafir and Phantom fighters or Jericho missiles. These weapons have a 20-kiloton yield, roughly as powerful as those that obliterated Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Describing how close the world came to nuclear war, Time reports that after midnight on the morning of October 9th, during the Yom Kippur War, Defense Minister Moshe Dayan solemnly warned Premier Golda Meir, "This is the end of the Third Temple." Mrs. Meir thereupon gave Dayan permission to activate Israel's doomsday weapons. As each bomb was assembled, it was rushed off to waiting Air Force units. Before any triggers were set, however, the battle on both fronts turned in Israel's favor. The 13 bombs were sent to desert arsenals, where they remain today, still ready for use. As reported in the Christian Science Monitor, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger even received a message from Brezhnev stating that Moscow was contemplating unilateral military steps in the Middle East. And late at night on October 24, 1973, American troops all over the world were put on alert. DEFCON 3, the highest state of armed forces readiness for peacetime conditions. The year before, the CIA judged the veracity of the NUMEC story in a memo titled Possible Diversion of Weapons-Grade Nuclear Materials to Israel by Officials of the Nuclear Materials and Equipment Corporation. As CIA put it, diversion of special nuclear materials to Israel by Dr. Shapiro and his associates is a distinct possibility. Lead-coated or nickel-plated, it would present no radiation hazard and could have easily gone by diplomatic pouch or Israel merchant ship, or even El Al Airlines. Transportation of diverted material to Israel would have been a simple matter. Indeed, in a top-secret strategy document from July 1969 from Henry Kissinger to President Nixon, there is circumstantial evidence that some fissionable material available for Israel's weapons development was illegally obtained from the United States by about 1965. This is one program on which the Israelis have persistently deceived us and may even have stolen from us. This allegation was echoed in an embarrassing leak of the CIA's Special National Intelligence Estimate for 1974, which was released in almost unredacted form in 1978. We believe that Israel has already produced nuclear weapons. Israel has gone to great effort to obtain uranium concentrate. It has sought this material clandestinely, followed by a redaction. Another CIA source from April of 1977 adds further doubt to the Atomic Energy Commission's official story. A note from Anthony A. Lapham, the CIA's General Counsel to CIA Associate Deputy Director for Operations Theodore Shackley, reads, "As I understand it, the investigations of NUMEC are related to the possibility that nuclear material may have been diverted, and apparently, at least the Energy Research and Development Administration has concluded there is no evidence of diversion. However, that conclusion is difficult to square with our intelligence information." An amusing example from the same year, a CIA memorandum for the record containing a summary of Carl Duckett's testimony to congressional staffers. When asked how stolen uranium could conceivably be transported out of the United States, Duckett responded he had no first-hand knowledge of the topic, followed by redactions of the remainder of his 3-page-long response. Investigations of Dr. Zalman Mordecai Shapiro focused attention on his ties to Israeli intelligence from the beginning, as we've seen. In October 1968, FBI Pittsburgh reports a request from a group of Israelis to visit the NUMEC plant at Apollo. One of them was Dr. Avraham Hermoni, a member of the Israeli Intelligence Service, who was known to be engaged in the establishment of a technical intelligence network in the United States, and that prior to his assignment as scientific counselor of the Israeli Embassy, Washington, D.C., he was intimately connected with Israeli efforts to develop nuclear weapons in his capacity as Technical Director, Armament Development Authority, Ministry of Defense. Another visitor was the notorious Rafi Eitan, later spy handler of Jonathan Pollard. Interestingly enough, the NUMEC affair is apparently not taboo in the Israeli press. Indeed, when in 2015 the Jerusalem Post published an article on the life of now 88-year-old Eitan, they included in his career summary involvement in the diversion of highly enriched uranium from an American nuclear fuel plant, the Apollo affair. A 1978 report from the General Accounting Office concluded that federal agencies failed to investigate the NUMEC affair. We believe a timely, concerted effort on the part of these 3 agencies would have greatly aided and possibly solved the NUMEC diversion questions if they desired to do so. Difficulties in properly investigating the affair include a lack of transparency, troves of documents unreleased or released with extraordinary redactions. The CIA's caginess is exhibited in a secret 1979 memo from then Acting Deputy Director for Operations John Stein, ordering to advise the General Accounting Office that we cannot declassify our report because of the need to have a coordinated executive branch position and our desire to protect a sensitive and valuable liaison equity. In their seminal work, The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy, John Mersheimer and Stephen Walt observe that the irony is hard to miss. The United States has pressured many other states to join the Non-Proliferation Treaty, imposed sanctions on countries that have defied U.S. wishes and acquired nuclear weapons anyway, gone to war in 2003 to prevent Iraq from pursuing weapons of mass destruction, and contemplated attacking Iran and North Korea for the same reason. Yet Washington has long subsidized an ally whose clandestine weapons of mass destruction activities are well known, and whose nuclear arsenal has given several of its neighbors a powerful incentive to seek weapons of mass destruction themselves. It's difficult, or virtually impossible for us to even know what the Israeli nuclear arsenal has become. Just days after the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, we'll remember that an Israeli lawmaker of the ruling Likud party called for use of a Jericho missile, strategic alert, before considering the introduction of forces, doomsday weapon. This is my opinion. May God preserve all our strength. And Amihai Eliyahu, Israel's Minister of Heritage, who also suggested dropping a nuclear bomb on the Gaza Strip. Haaretz intelligence correspondent Yossi Melman dismisses these officials as messianic and far-right. Though, is this observation enough to quell the anxieties of those fearing nuclear holocaust in the Middle East? After all, Messianic and far-right officials lead powerful ministries in the current government of Israel, including religious Zionist Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's finance minister, and Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's national security minister and leader of the Jewish Power Party, the same party as Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu. The sustained and continuous rise in political power of the Messianic right in Israel is well documented. Perhaps most terrifyingly of all, the sheer power of such mystery weapons can only be speculated, though there are some troubling hints in the history. If we remember the history of the Israeli nuclear weapons program for the U.S. Air Force Counterproliferation Papers, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Werner Farr noted that considerable collaboration between Israel and South Africa developed and continued through the 1970s and 1980s. South Africa became Israel's primary supplier of uranium. In a disturbing development, in 1987, the Institute for Defense Analysis prepared a report for the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense, which declared that the Israelis are developing the kind of codes which will enable them to make hydrogen bombs. All the more troubling when considering the fact that, according to former Nuclear Regulatory Commissioner Victor Galinsky, on September 22, 1979, a U.S. Vela satellite designed to detect nuclear tests registered a signal over the Indian Ocean that was generally believed in the U.S. intelligence community to indicate an Israeli nuclear test carried out with South African cooperation. And the government covered it up. This conclusion was politically awkward for the Carter administration, then trying to mediate Mideast peace. The president's science advisor brought together a group of prominent non-governmental scientists for a narrow review of the event. The panel came up with the inventive interpretation that the light signal detected by the satellite came not from the ocean surface far away, but rather from reflections from tiny particles that happened to pass in front of the satellite detector in exactly the right way to imitate a bomb signal. The White House panel discounted data from ionospheric disturbances recorded by a radio telescope in Puerto Rico that was consistent with the bomb interpretation of the satellite data. Additionally, the Vela satellite experts at the Los Alamos laboratory are still convinced their satellite recorded a nuclear test. The worrisome part? The technical significance of such a test was that it would have indicated Israel was developing hydrogen weapons, for which testing is essential, and thus its weapons program was then already highly advanced.
Drop your thoughts below. Subscribe, like, share if you dare. They're watching. Peace.